Imagine waking up tomorrow morning. You turn on the news. The anchor's voice is different, tighter, faster. Oil prices have surged 40% overnight. Markets in Tokyo, London, and New York are in free fall. The United States has placed its fifth fleet on the highest state of combat readiness. And at the center of all of it, a strip of dark blue water. 21 miles wide, sitting between the Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman. A place most people couldn't find on a map. A place that, if it closes, even for 72 hours, sends the entire global economy into a spiral that economists say could take years to recover from. This is the Strait of Hormuz, and Iran has its finger on the trigger. To understand why the world holds its breath every time tensions rise in the Persian Gulf, you need to understand what the Strait of Hormuz actually is. It is not just a body of water, it is a pipeline. The most important pipeline on the planet, except instead of steel and concrete, it's made of salt water, shipping lanes, and decades of fragile geopolitical agreement. The strait sits between Iran to the north and the United Arab Emirates and Oman to the south. At its narrowest, it measures just 21 nautical miles. The actual navigable shipping channels, the lanes where supertankers travel, are each only 2 miles wide in either direction, separated by a 2-mile buffer zone. Through those 4 miles of ocean, every single day, between 15 and 17 million barrels of crude oil travel to the outside world. That's the oil powering cars in Germany, factories in China, hospitals in Japan, and military bases across NATO, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Kuwait, the UAE, Qatar, Bahrain. All of their oil, every barrel destined for export, must pass through this strait. There is no other way out, and Iran knows this. Iran shares the northern coastline of the strait. Its territory wraps around the choke point like a hand around a throat. For decades, Iranian military strategists, naval commanders, and political leaders have studied, war-gamed, and openly discussed what it would take to shut it down. The question the world has been asking since the Iranian Revolution of 1979 is not whether Iran could block the strait. The question is whether Iran would, and what would happen next. The relationship between Iran and the West over this waterway has been tense for over 4 decades. Iran sees control of the strait as its ultimate deterrent, its nuclear option before it ever had a nuclear program. Every time the United States imposes sanctions, every time Israel threatens Iranian nuclear facilities, every time Washington tightens the economic noose around Tehran, Iranian commanders remind the world, we can close the strait. It is the one card Iran holds that no other nation can match. And in this video, we are going to play that card out to its full and terrifying conclusion. Hour by hour, decision by decision, crisis by crisis. What actually happens, militarily, economically, and politically, if Iran closes the Strait of Hormuz? Every major crisis has a trigger. Rarely is it the root cause, but it is the spark. For our scenario, grounded in real military doctrine, actual Iranian capabilities, and publicly available war game analyses, the trigger comes on a Tuesday morning in late autumn. The United States, in coordination with Israel and European allies, has just announced the most crippling package of economic sanctions ever imposed on Iran. Iranian oil exports, already strangled, are effectively reduced to zero. The Iranian rial collapses. Protests erupt in Tehran. The government faces an existential threat from within. And in that corner, with its back against the wall, Iran's supreme leadership convenes the Supreme National Security Council. The generals lay out the options. Option 1, absorb the sanctions, negotiate, accept humiliation. Option 2, accelerate the nuclear program and accept the international consequences. Option 3, the strait. The decision, according to multiple intelligence assessments and think tank simulations, including analyses from the RAND Corporation and the U.S. Naval War College, would not be made lightly. But historically, cornered regimes make desperate choices. The order goes out to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy, the IRGCN, not the regular Iranian Navy, the IRGCN. This distinction matters enormously, and here's why. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy is not a conventional naval force. It does not operate aircraft carriers or destroyer groups. It operates swarm tactics, asymmetric warfare, and a doctrine specifically designed to neutralize American naval superiority. Think of it this way. The U.S. Navy brings a chess grandmaster to the board. The IRGCN flips the chessboard over and pulls out a knife. Their arsenal includes hundreds of small, fast attack craft capable of reaching speeds over 50 knots, each armed with anti-ship missiles, torpedoes, and rocket-propelled grenades. They have Chinese-designed C-802 anti-ship missiles, domestically produced Nor and Kater missiles with ranges exceeding 200 kilometers, an extensive arsenal of naval mines, some of them sophisticated, pressure-activated, contact mines, and acoustic mines designed to lie dormant on the seafloor until a supertanker passes overhead. And they have one more weapon that defense analysts describe as potentially decisive in the opening hours of any conflict: coastal defense batteries. Rows of missile launchers embedded in the rocky Iranian coastline, overlooking the shipping lanes, capable of firing salvos faster than any ship can evade. In the opening move of our scenario, the IRGCN deploys mine-laying vessels under cover of darkness. They scatter thousands of naval mines across both shipping lanes. Within 6 hours, the strait is effectively a minefield. The blockade has begun. The first signal that something is catastrophically wrong doesn't come from a military radar. It comes from a Norwegian shipping company. At 3:47 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time, the supertanker Nordic Aurora, carrying 2 million barrels of Kuwaiti crude, receives an emergency broadcast. A mine has detonated beneath a Singaporean tanker 12 miles ahead. The Nordic Aurora stops dead in the water. So does every other vessel in the southern approaches. Within 2 hours, 43 supertankers are sitting stationary in the Gulf of Oman and the southern Persian Gulf, waiting for instructions that don't come. At dawn, the global oil market opens. In the first 60 seconds of trading, Brent crude jumps $18 per barrel. By midday, it has risen $40. By close of markets, on day one, $62 above the previous day's price. Oil is trading at over $160 per barrel. The psychological impact is immediate and savage. Traders aren't just pricing in current disruption, they're pricing in fear. They're pricing in the possibility that this doesn't resolve in days, but in weeks or months. Airlines begin emergency fuel hedging operations. European governments begin calling emergency cabinet meetings. The International Energy Agency activates its Strategic Petroleum Reserve Release protocols for the first time since the 2011 Libya crisis. But releasing strategic reserves takes time. Moving oil through alternative pipelines, the East-West pipeline through Saudi Arabia, the Habshan-Fujairah pipeline in the UAE, takes time. And the volumes those pipelines carry represent only a fraction of what flows through the strait. Meanwhile, in Washington at 5:00 a.m. Eastern Time, the National Security Advisor wakes the president. The situation briefing is 3 words before it becomes paragraphs. Iran closed Hormuz. The U.S. military response is not improvised. It has been war-gamed, refined, and rehearsed for 30 years. The U.S. Fifth Fleet, headquartered in Manama, Bahrain, goes to DEFCON 3, the highest peacetime alert level, within the first hour. The USS Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group, already operating in the Arabian Sea, begins repositioning. Its escorts, guided missile cruisers and destroyers, are ordered to the southern approaches of the strait. Pentagon planners activate O-Plan 102, the long-standing operational plan for conflict in the Persian Gulf. Mine countermeasures vessels, the USS Devastator, the USS Sentry, ships purpose-built for exactly this threat, begin moving forward. But here is where American naval planners face their most uncomfortable truth. The United States Navy has just 11 active mine countermeasure ships in its entire fleet. The Strait of Hormuz is estimated by the Office of Naval Intelligence to contain the potential for over 3,000 naval mines if Iran deploys its full arsenal. 11 ships, 3,000 mines. The math is not encouraging. Clearing the strait, even under the most optimistic scenarios, could take weeks. By day 3, the economic consequences have stopped being abstractions. In Japan, which imports over 80% of its oil through the strait, the government announces emergency rationing protocols. Factories are told to cut production by 30%. The Nikkei stock index has fallen 12% in 2 trading sessions. In South Korea, the same. In China, which imports more oil through the strait than any other nation on Earth, the government is simultaneously furious and calculating. China's economy cannot sustain a prolonged closure. But China also has no desire to be dragged into a shooting war alongside the United States against a country it has cultivated as an economic partner. Beijing issues a statement calling for de-escalation through dialogue. Privately, Chinese officials are on the phone with Tehran around the clock. In Europe, the crisis hits differently, but no less severely. Natural gas prices, already elevated, spike dramatically as LNG tankers from Qatar sit stranded. Germany, still threading the needle of its energy transition, faces the prospect of industrial shutdowns as winter approaches. And in the United States, despite being far more energy independent than in previous decades, the global oil price shock transmits through the economy with brutal efficiency. Gas prices at the pump begin rising within 48 hours. Trucking costs spike. Food prices begin their upward climb. Airlines announce emergency surcharges. The Federal Reserve holds an emergency session. Economists begin using a word that central bankers despise: stagflation. A 2019 analysis by the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas estimated that a full closure of the Strait of Hormuz could reduce global GDP by up to 1% within the first quarter. That sounds modest, but 1% of global GDP in 2024 is approximately $1 trillion. $1 trillion. Gone in 90 days, and we're still only on day 3. By day 5, both sides are making decisions that could determine whether this remains an economic crisis or becomes a shooting war. Iran, emboldened by the paralysis in the shipping lanes, makes its next move. IRGCN fast boats begin harassing vessels in the Gulf, circling tankers, firing warning shots, briefly seizing a Panamanian-flagged vessel in what Iranian state media describes as a customs inspection. It is a provocation, a calculated one. Iran wants to demonstrate that it controls the Gulf, not just the Strait. The response from the U.S. Fifth Fleet is immediate and proportional, on paper. American warships shadow every Iranian vessel. Rules of engagement are tightened. 2 IRGCN fast boats that approach within 500 yards of a U.S. destroyer are warned off with ship-mounted acoustic devices and warning shots. No one dies, yet. But in the air, the picture is more dangerous. U.S. B-52 bombers from Diego Garcia begin conducting what the Pentagon calls freedom of navigation flights over the Persian Gulf, a direct message to Tehran. Iranian F-14s and Su-30s scramble to shadow them. For 47 tense minutes on day 6, American bombers and Iranian fighters fly within visual range of each other over the Gulf of Oman. One miscalculation, one trigger-happy pilot, one misidentified radar return. The world is that close. Meanwhile, U.S. Special Operations Forces, likely elements of SEAL team components under Naval Special Warfare Command, are reportedly activated for reconnaissance missions to assess Iranian coastal missile battery positions. Satellite coverage over the Iranian coastline increases dramatically, with additional NRO assets redirected from other theaters. Israel, watching the crisis with existential concern, it has its own reasons to want Iranian military capacity degraded, begins quietly moving aircraft to forward bases. The question in every intelligence capital on Earth: is Israel about to use this crisis as cover for the strike on Iranian nuclear facilities that it has been planning for years? The crisis is no longer just about oil. It is becoming about the entire regional order. Here is where the scenario reaches its most critical juncture, and where understanding Iranian strategic thinking becomes essential. Iran does not want a war with the United States. Every credible analysis of Iranian grand strategy, from the RAND Corporation to the International Institute for Strategic Studies, reaches the same conclusion. Iran uses the threat of Hormuz as leverage, not as an act of suicide. The IRGCN doctrine, not to defeat the U.S. Navy in open battle. It is to make the cost of intervention high enough, bloody enough, and economically damaging enough that American political will breaks before Iranian resistance does. This is the lesson Iran absorbed from watching America in Iraq and Afghanistan. Conventional dominance does not guarantee political victory. So what does Iran's ideal endgame look like? Close the strait. Absorb the initial American response. Keep the crisis simmering at a level just below all-out war. Watch the economic pain accumulate in America's allies, Japan, Korea, Europe, and let their pressure on Washington do the work that Iranian missiles cannot. Force a negotiation. Extract sanctions relief. Declare victory to its domestic audience. It is an audacious strategy, and it carries enormous risk. Because the United States has a counter-move that Iranian planners can wargame, but cannot fully neutralize. Massive, precise airstrikes. The Pentagon's air campaign options against Iran are some of the most detailed and refined in American military planning history. Strike packages exist for Iranian coastal missile batteries, IRGC-N bases, mine storage facilities, and command and control infrastructure. These strikes would not require a ground invasion. They would not require carriers to enter the strait itself. Long-range strikes from B-2 stealth bombers, Tomahawk cruise missiles launched from submarines and surface ships and carrier-based aircraft operating in the Arabian Sea could systematically degrade Iran's ability to sustain a blockade. The question always is political, not military. Does the President of the United States authorize strikes on Iranian territory? Because once that threshold is crossed, the rules change entirely. Hezbollah activates in Lebanon. Iranian proxies launch attacks on U.S. bases across Iraq and Syria. The region, already a tinderbox, ignites. And this is precisely where the Strait of Hormuz crisis reveals its deepest and most dangerous truth. It is not really a naval problem. It is a problem about how far two nuclear-adjacent powers are willing to push each other before one of them blinks. History tells us how these crises tend to end. Not with victory, not with defeat, but with exhaustion and calculation. In 1984 and 1988, during the tanker war, the closest the world has come to an actual Hormuz closure, both sides eventually stepped back from the abyss. Iranian mines damaged 37 vessels. The United States Navy directly engaged Iranian forces in Operation Praying Mantis in April 1988, sinking half of Iran's operational naval fleet in a single day. Iran backed down. The strait remained open. But the world of 1908 and the world of today are not the same world. In 1988, Iran had no ballistic missile arsenal of the sophistication it possesses today. It had no network of regional proxy forces stretching from Lebanon to Yemen. It had no advanced drone program capable of saturating air defenses. And crucially, the global economy's dependence on Gulf oil was significant, but not structurally existential in the way it remains today, even in the era of American shale. A 2020 war game conducted by researchers at Harvard Kennedy School's Belfer Center concluded that a modern Hormuz closure, even lasting just 2 weeks, would cause economic damage exceeding the 2008 financial crisis in its immediate market impact. A closure lasting 60 days, which their scenario modeled as feasible under Iranian anti-access strategies, would approach depression-level economic disruption in import-dependent Asian economies. The world has built extraordinary economic complexity on a foundation that includes a 21-mile bottleneck. That is not a metaphor. That is an engineering flaw in the architecture of globalization. The Hormuz crisis also exposes the deep structural weakness at the heart of American energy policy and military strategy in the region. Despite the shale revolution making the United States a net energy exporter, American strategic commitment to the Persian Gulf has not diminished proportionally, because American allies remain deeply dependent, and because the dollar's status as the global reserve currency is inextricably linked to the dollar-denominated global oil trade. This means the United States cannot simply walk away from the Gulf, as some voices in American strategic circles have advocated. The Fifth Fleet isn't there for American oil. It's there for the architecture of the entire post-World War II economic order. And Iran knows this, which means the Strait of Hormuz will remain, for the foreseeable future, the most dangerous 21 miles of water on Earth. The place where American power projection, Iranian asymmetric deterrence, and the nervous systems of the global economy intersect in a combination that demands constant, exhausting, expensive management. One crisis at a time. There is something deeply unsettling about the Strait of Hormuz, something that goes beyond the oil prices and the warships and the diplomatic cables. It is the realization that the modern world, for all its technology, its satellites, its algorithms, its artificial intelligence, remains profoundly, almost embarrassingly vulnerable to geography. 21 miles, that's all it takes. 21 miles of water to bring a civilization to its knees. To empty store shelves in Seoul and dim factory floors in Stuttgart, and spike heating bills in Manchester, and trigger political crises from Washington to Beijing. We built a world of extraordinary interdependence and then threaded it through a needle. Every strategist knows this. Every admiral knows this. Every intelligence officer who has ever briefed a president on the Persian Gulf knows this. And yet, the needle remains. Because fixing it would require a level of global energy transformation, infrastructure investment, and geopolitical cooperation that the world has not yet found the will to pursue. It would require admitting that the status quo, managed crisis, perpetual deterrence, the constant forward deployment of naval power into one of the world's most volatile regions is not a solution. It is a delay. The ships are out there right now, tonight. American sailors standing watch on destroyer bridges in the dark Gulf waters. Iranian IRGCN commanders monitoring radar screens from hardened coastal bunkers. Satellite operators in classified facilities tracking every vessel, every aircraft, every movement, holding the needle open, one day at a time. And somewhere in Tehran, in the halls of the Supreme National Security Council, someone knows exactly how thin that thread is. The Strait of Hormuz isn't just a choke point on a map. It is a question the world has been refusing to fully answer for 50 years. What happens when the thread breaks?